I'm Katie Scoboria, and I'm a junior mechanical engineer at Villanova University. I'm here today with some other mechanical engineers. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and name your discipline and the field that you currently work in.
Great. I can go first. My name is Ashley Ferguson. I'm a mechanical engineer. I graduated in 2009 from Villanova. I currently work for the U.S. Navy at the Navy Yard in South Philly on a new construction site, testing new ship concepts for the Navy.
Awesome.
And I am Kerry Bruggemann. I graduated from Villanova with a mechanical engineering degree in 2006. And I work as a consulting engineer in the Twin Cities area, designing heating and air conditioning for large commercial buildings. My main client is the Minneapolis airport, which is where I am right now. So.
Awesome. So maybe, Kerry, you can start us off with this one. So maybe go through your academic and professional career. So, maybe some classes you took at Villanova or some things you were involved in, and then how you got into the field you're currently in, and if you had anything between Villanova and your current job, that'd be great to kind of go into as well.
Great. Well, my interest in engineering started when I was young. I started in a robotics program in high school, and because I'm just a little bit nerdy at heart, it's where it starts. And loved that experience, so I started as an engineer at Villanova and stayed the course the whole 4 years, which I was fortunate because then I just graduated in 4 years. And I did take one course that applies today. There was at the time an elective that was an HVAC related elective, so I took that. And I have kind of a non-standard path in the sense that I work for a family company. My grandfather started the company 70 years ago. My father's currently one of the owners, and now I work there as well. So I'm the third generation, the first girl in the crew, which is kind of fun too.
Awesome.
That's great. So at Villanova, I think some of the stuff that helped me mostly was the all the group work. I know at the time it was always challenging, but where I work now, I'm the deputy construction manager, and we do a lot of group work, especially working across different disciplines. So the senior design projects were always really helpful for me to kind of relate it to real world experience. Just like Kerry, I also joined the robotics team in high school just because my brother joined, and I was actually the second engineer in my family ever, the first female engineer. So it was really kind of bizarre for everyone that I decided to engineering, and my family still to this day asks me what I do and what engineers do. So I definitely think that being involved in the robotics team in high school really helped spark my interest in engineering.
Awesome. So you both talked about doing robotics in high school, and I'm just wondering if that's when you knew you wanted to be an engineer, or if maybe you knew early on. So kind of when you knew you wanted to be an engineer, and then also what made you decide to be an engineer.
Why don't you go first, Ashley?
Okay, great. So I was actually, my entire family is pretty much in the medical field, or teachers, a couple lawyers. So I was definitely the first engineer or science really related in that area in my family. So I would say the robotics team really sparked my interest. It was something totally different to me, and I kept thinking, oh, you could apply robots to biomedical devices, and so I thought I wanted to do something along biomedical engineering, doing prosthetics. Then when I got to college at Villanova, I realized that mechanical engineers do so much. And so after work, I started working for the Navy, and I'm just in awe about all the different things mechanical engineers do. It's such a wide range of projects. So I'm really happy I chose engineering. I'm really happy I chose ME. And so I also think that it's really important to reach out to the younger generation, especially females, to get them interested in engineering, because I personally never had that. I didn't know any engineers until I went to college. So
Right.
I think it's super important to do that. So I usually try to reach out to STEM events. So this past weekend, I helped out at the Villanova STEM Girls Camp on campus with the Girl Scouts. And it was really inspiring to see these 4th through 7th grader girls really excited about engineering and science. So I always think it's important to kind of continue that and get girls interested at an early age.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've always liked science and math since I was a little kid, like in kindergarten and that Girl Scout age. So it just kind of led me down that path in classes. I have two other siblings. We all started in engineering. I'm the only one that completed it, which is kind of a joke in my family.
Right.
Because I have brothers too. So
Right.
they would be the traditional engineers. And I always liked it. I always liked putting things together. I always worked with my dad in the garage, fixing things, figuring it out. And I always actually really liked architecture. And so like when I was a little like 12-year-old girl, I would draw backgrounds. I'm a really big nerd, and like draw little houses and stuff. And that's what I do for a living now, is draw buildings, but I just do the engineering side of the building, not the architectural side, which in my mind is more fun anyways. So.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, you both obviously love what you do and love engineering. So maybe if you could talk about your favorite thing about your job and your favorite thing about engineering. So Kerry, why don't you start us off?
Well, one of the things I love about my job is that it's never the same. Every day is different. So for example, today I'm here at MSP International Airport all day long in a variety of meetings, tackling simple tasks to really complicated tasks, and working with, I'll probably be in meetings with 30 or 40 different people throughout the day. So it's not as solitary work as I think often comes off in the impressions. It's very much group work, very much, which Ashley touched on as well, very much working together, collaborating, making sure the building can get built. And then one of the things I find so rewarding about it is that I actually get to see what I've designed in real life when it comes out in real life. I can walk through it, look at, touch it, feel it, which is really a rewarding experience to get to do. And just that variety of life. And yesterday I was in the office all day long. So it just depends on the day. And that's one of the great things.
Awesome.
Yeah, I actually absolutely agree with Kerry's answer. I was going to say the same thing. One of the things I love most is that the day-to-day items are constantly changing. No 2 days are the same. I prefer that environment. I think it's more exciting, makes the days more fun. I also enjoy the people I work with and collaborating with other engineers and also other people across different fields. And then the other thing I also love is learning. And so I feel like I'm constantly learning while I'm on the job, learning about new systems, how they work, how they're designed, and then kind of using those lessons learned to apply them to future designs and future systems. So also particularly working for the Navy is very rewarding. Kind of like Kerry mentioned, you get to see your work being built and accomplished. I always take a lot of pride in being able to see some of the designs that we worked on getting built. Previously, I worked on the ship-to-shore connector, which is the newest hovercraft for the Navy. So it's really interesting to be able to see that finally getting built, and being able to see some of the ships I worked on in the news, helping national defense. So it's been good. I have a lot of pride in that aspect.
That's awesome. So in terms of, we're all women in mechanical engineering, and it is really dominated by men. And Kerry, you talked about, being the first kind of woman in your family in this family business and having these brothers. So maybe we can touch on how being a woman has shaped your experiences or impacted any of your experiences. And then additionally, what advice do you have for girls who are thinking of going into STEM? So Ashley, you start us off.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a tough question. So yeah, that's tough. I definitely think I personally have faced many challenges being a female engineer, and I'm sure many women, if not all women, have also faced similar challenges. So I think one of the biggest things that motivates me personally is being the change I wish to see in the world. So being able to pave the way for future females in engineering. So anytime that I have a tough day or tough situation, I always think about, well, the way I handle this is going to affect how the next person has to handle it, or if they're even exposed to this. So I always kind of keep that in mind, and I think that's what motivates me to get through some of the tough spots. I also think it's important for women to bond together and be their own champions, be champions for each other. So I was the head of the Women's Society at work for female engineers. And I think it's really important to have groups like that where we can talk together, collaborate together, and then also promote each other.
Right.
And so I always find things like that extremely important.
Mhm. And what advice would you have for girls who are thinking of going into STEM fields?
Oh, I always tell people if they're passionate about it, they should absolutely do it.
Right.
And I think it's important because it's a lot of hard work. But if it's something you enjoy, it's absolutely worth it. It's a lot of fun. Definitely an exciting career field. So I always tell people if they're passionate about it, they should absolutely do it. My younger cousin is just changed her major to mechanical engineering. So I'm super excited about that, to have another female engineer in the family.
Awesome.
That's awesome. As far as being a woman in engineering, I kind of see it as an opportunity. I personally love being a little bit different and having that edge just by walking in the room and being a girl. And so I really try and just enjoy that. And it's kind of fun that it just sets you apart. I also kind of like to buck tradition, if you will, when you walk in or you tell someone. I have this great story where a guy friend of mine and I was just getting to know her in a bar, and leave it to a Villanova story right here. And then he was like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "I'm an engineer." And he was like, "Right, I'm a astronaut." And I was like, "No, really, I'm a mechanical engineer." And we're still friends like 15 years later, and all the time I'm like, "So how's being an astronaut, Matt?" He's like, "Very funny, Kerry." But I kind of like to just like wow people a little bit, that they're like, "Wow, this like normal, put together, fun, kind person is an engineer." And I think just like you girls, we're all in the same boat there, and we're not these like weird nerdy. I mean, we might be nerdy on the inside, but we're just normal girls, and I think that's one of the things that, especially for young girls, I'd like to teach them, is that be yourself, and take those things that you like to learn and run with them, and earlier rather than later.
Right.
It makes your college, start in it if you're interested in it, and if you change and you end up being in business, great. But if it's something you're interested in, give it a shot, out the chute, and start young.
Right.
Because I think it's your best success will come the more you learn, the younger you are. So.
Right.
Yeah, I think Kerry raises an excellent point about shattering the way that female engineers are perceived and engineers are perceived in general. So I think that's a great point, because it's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ashley, you talked about leading the women's group at your office, at your job. So maybe you could touch on some other things you're involved in, whether that's SWE, whether that's Engineering Alumni Society, whether that's an organization at your company, and maybe, outside of work, what do you do for fun? What do you like to do just, outside of engineering?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess the head of the Society of Women's Engineering group here, and I found that really beneficial for getting women together. We used to host different events. We had a lot of lunch and learns, so we bring in guest speakers to talk about different topics, and that was always really beneficial and helpful events. Then I'm the newly elected president of the Villanova Engineering Alumni Society. So I'm the second female president. President was 30 years ago, so I'm happy to get female engineers back on the board and back in roles in officer positions. So I'm one of the things I'm looking to do with that organization is create more STEM outreach events. So connecting alumni with the younger generation. So like I mentioned earlier, I think it's really important to reach out to girls and guys at a young age and get them interested in STEM and math and science.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I'm also, I think mentoring is really important. So
right.
I've been really fortunate to have some pretty great mentors here at work. And so I think it's important to continue to mentor other people. And so I usually take on a couple interns. And so it's very rewarding to see some of the interns, in particular, some of the female interns, really excel and kind of help them out in those tougher situations, being a female engineer. And now they're doing great. So it's really rewarding to see them doing well. Lastly, you asked what I like to do outside of work. So I love to travel. That is definitely one of my passions. And so what I was fortunately able to do was combine travel and engineering So when I was at Villanova, I started up the Engineers Without Borders chapter.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. I traveled to Thailand, Nicaragua, and New Orleans, and built different engineering systems, water systems, playgrounds. And so maybe a year or two ago, I was the engineering advisor for an engineering service learning trip to Panama. So that was extremely rewarding to be able to tie back to Villanova and continue to do engineering and service and travel.
That's so cool.
I wish I could do that full time, but that's something I definitely enjoy.
Villanova Suite is actually planning a service trip to Costa Rica for next spring break. So we're working on that right now.
Awesome. Well, let me know if you need an advisor.
Well, yeah.
Do you want to know about me and my involvement in something? So kind of two main things I would say I'm involved in. One is I'm a professional engineer. So, which they don't talk about a lot in college, but it's I've taken 2 of my professional engineering exams. So you take your engineering training exam, graduate, and then after you've been working in the field for 4 years, you take your professional engineering exam. So I've maintained an involvement with the National Society of Professional Engineers and then the Minnesota Society of Professional Engineers. So I am on a couple committees there. One of my girlfriends is actually one of the presidents of NSPE right now, which is kind of cool. She's 30, I don't know, 30 something, and I don't know exactly. And she's actually a chemical engineer with a law degree. So she's super cool. Look her up.
Wow.
And then the other group I'm really involved in is actually at Villanova. It's not engineering related, but I'm on Villanova's Alumni Association Board of Directors, which I love because I get to give back to Villanova and be there and be connected to through the university.
Right.
In the near future, I hopefully we each have a liaison, and so I will be liaisoning with Dean Gabriel, which will be wonderful because I'll spend more time with him and touch base with him more often and keep up on the engineering school. So
awesome.
And then in my personal life, I'm a mom. I have a 1-year-old little girl and a husband and a family, and we're busy. So I would say that's really where we're at.
That's your fun thing. That is fun. I'm sure a 1-year-old is a lot of fun.
Yeah, probably a big handful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pictures at school of her walking. She's just learning how to walk, so it's pretty exciting.
That is exciting. So that definitely adds to your out of work kind of everyday life. But then in terms of what you do on your job, I know you said it is constantly changing, but maybe you could go through just like a typical day on the job and kind of the different things you have to look forward to every day at work, and whether that's working with other people or working on bigger projects. Maybe go through some of that. So
sure. I can start out. I'll kind of give the phases of my world because I don't do what someone first out of school would do anymore because I'm old. But I'll give kind of the evolution. So in our industry, when you graduate, you typically start out very heavy on the design side, more desk work than anything, probably like 80% behind a desk, 20% out in the field. And in our firm, it could be anything from a small $1,000 remodel, maybe it's a tenant fit up to design an office or something like that. You draw the whole thing in Revit or AutoCAD, and you kind of sit and draw, and then the 20% is out in the field verifying exactly what's there, how it all fits together, how it works, how you're going to change it. So what I do, you don't learn at Villanova, you learn the concepts, you learn heat transfer, you learn fluid flow, and then we apply those, we teach you how to do all of that. Then as over time, you might move up and you might do like 50-50 where you're half in the field, half in the office, you're in some meetings, you're coordinating, and then it just kind of evolves to where you get to be me, where you spend the whole day at the airport. But so now I function as I'm a principal of our firm, so I do everything from soup to nuts. I'm involved in our hiring and firing. I'm involved in, staff reviews and our marketing and our business development. I'm involved in helping with financials. I mean, the whole business side of the company, which you need, as well as, heavy design meetings, expanding buildings, large projects, all of that. So like we said earlier, it changes every day, but it's kind of fun because I get to use both sides or all of that, and I get to be dynamic with people and meetings, and then I get to sit down at a desk and like hammer out stuff with my staff and say, why don't we do this instead? And what if we did this here? And what if we put this here and this there? And so we all get to use all of that in my world, which is fun. So
that's awesome. Yeah, so I've a little bit of an idea of what you're talking about. I've worked for 2 HVAC firms, so I'm pretty familiar in terms of AutoCAD and Revit and the design process. So those are some really
if you're
good.
ever looking for a job, come to Minnesota. We're great. We're actually just hired a senior. She starts in the spring. We can't wait. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Ashley, why don't you touch on some of the things that you do for the Navy?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally impressed how quickly Kerry's moved up the chain. Here at the Navy, when you start, you go through a scientist and engineer development program. So it takes about 3 years to go through, and it's mainly going through different classes that you have to take to get you up to speed with how the Navy operates, and technical writing and design review, that kind of thing. So I started out as working in one of the tech codes, and I worked on main propulsion shaft repairs. So I helped manage shaft repairs for all surface ships across the Navy. And then from there, enough shafts, so I worked on the decommissioned ships in Philly, pulling parts off of the ships, giving them to active ships and training sites and sending them around the world. And that was a great cost avoidance, money-saving program for the Navy.
Right.
And that really helped me expand my horizon on different systems, because there's a lot of different systems on the ship. From there, I was on the design team for the ship-to-shore connector, which is the LCAC replacement. It's the newest hovercraft on the Navy, so there I did some more design work. And that was interesting because at that point I had done in-service engineering with the main propulsion shaft repairs, design work for the ship-to-shore connector, and then decommission work with the decommissioned ships. So the only thing I felt like I was missing was testing. So I switched programs maybe about 2 years ago, and now I'm on a test site. And it's super exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of systems. Right now we're in the still in the construction phase and early test phase. So we're kind of just starting to be able to see the systems that were designed being built and tested. So a day really varies every single day here, depending on what we're building or testing. But it's very rewarding to finally see these systems operating.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I think we probably have time for one more question. And then this is kind of open-ended, but just for all of our viewers and for all the women who are in engineering, maybe some words of encouragement on advocating for each other or being a female in this field. I'm sure our viewers would love to hear kind of your take on that. So
I'll let Kerry go first on that one.
I would just say believe in yourself. It's not always easy, and you're definitely going to stumble, and don't be afraid to stumble. It's not a problem if, you know, you get a C in a class. It might be your first C ever, but it happens to all of us. I think some of the smartest and brightest people are the people who don't necessarily know exactly what they want to do the day they step into college. So explore within, you know, your passions. Like Ashley said, you know, if you're interested in science and math, start in engineering and explore within it. Try all the different things. Anything, mechanical engineers are involved in anything that moves. So I move air and water. Ashley moves people in the Navy and systems in the Navy, and, you know, there's everything in between. So, you know, explore, get lost in the field, try and learn from people, shadow people. And while you're in school, gather as much of that information as you can and have those experiences so you can see what it is you really like to do.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, those are great words of advice. I absolutely agree with what Kerry's saying. Let me think. So I think it's important to also try to latch on and find a good mentor. I always find having a good mentor very helpful. I completely agree. Engineering is extremely challenging, so don't get down on yourself. Just keep trying. I think one of the takeaways I had in engineering school was how you think in basic concepts, because wherever you end up working, it's going to be pretty specific to that company or organization. So as long as you have that base of basic concepts and how to think about problems, I think that's going to be super beneficial. And then also I think it's really important to kind of pay it forward. So you know, whatever you take out of your career, you know, kind of reach out to the younger generation and continue to help support them and get them excited and interested in engineering. Try to mentor a younger engineer. So I think it's important that we kind of support each other as we move forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I loved interviewing you both today. I hope you have great days. And then for all of our viewers, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter, Villanova College of Engineering, as well as Villanova Society of Women Engineers. So thank you again for being here with me today.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.